Uh, my name is JJ, and I've been on YouTube for a while now, but I have recently discovered BookTube tags. I've been sort of a booktuber for a little bit, but to introduce myself to all of you, I wanted to do the BookTube Newbie Tag. Like I said, I'm not exactly a newbie. I've done some book-related videos in the past, and this isn't like a new channel, but I want to introduce myself to all of you wonderful folks, and so, without further ado, I figured I would just do the BookTube Newbie Tag and let you get to know me a little bit more. Okay, question number 1. Why did I start this channel? I feel like, okay, ever since I was in high school, I'm graduated from college now, but back when I was in high school and middle school, when YouTube was still, like, not like new, but sort of new. Like, it was normal that you could go watch YouTube videos to learn things and, like, somewhat entertaining, but, like, only some people were actually, like, into YouTube. Yeah. Anyway, back in those days, I was introduced to a channel. It was a educational entertainment channel by one of my friends. Um, for the life of me, I can't remember which channel right now, which is kind of sad. But I was introduced to the concept of being a YouTuber, right? And at the time, I feel like this is how most things in my life start, where at the time I'm like, wow, it'd be so cool if I could be a YouTuber. And then I just didn't do anything with that. Like, I just had the thought, like, that'd be fun, and then just did nothing with it. And then finally in college, when I was studying for becoming a writer and getting my professional writing degree, I realized that if I was going to start on YouTube, I needed to start on YouTube. And so my friend and I started going back and forth, sort of like the Vlog Brothers, but on our own channels. Um, and and that's how I started. So I started this sort of to keep up with a friend, but also because I kind of, since high school, have wanted to be a YouTuber. And now I feel kind of cool that I am actually sort of in some ways a YouTuber. Not a big one yet, but I'm hopeful. Anyway, all that to say, I started this channel because I wanted to put myself out there and start trying new things like that. And the one thing that I knew I could talk about was books and writing stuff and publishing stuff. And I mean, I'm kind of a nerd. As you can see by the two TARDISes visible in I'm a nerd. And so I figured if I was going to start talking about anything on the internet, I may as well be talking about things that I liked. So, books. Books it is. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? Wow. Like I said, oh gosh. I mean, I'm a nerd, right? Clearly. So I'm going to have some of that stuff where I'm just talking about nerdy things and ranting about nerdy things. I'm going to be talking about and ranting about books, which is pretty normal. People on BookTube do that a lot. But I'm also a writer. So hopefully at some point I can introduce BookTube to my own books. That'd be so fun. I also am in a position in the publishing industry to interview authors and bring you sort of behind the scenes of, like, how did the book happen? How did this book come to be? So there's already a couple interviews like that on my channel, but I want to do more of them going forward because they're super fun. And I love those behind the scenes sorts of things that we get to do. But yeah, so I can bring you that behind the scenes look. Wow, I feel like I'm auditioning for something. Am I auditioning for something? Is that what this tag is? What am I most excited for about this channel? Like I said, I wanted to put myself out there, and so I am. I've been posting videos with my I've been posting videos of myself reading short stories that I write every month, trying to put myself out there, trying to create accessible content that people may not necessarily know to look for, right? Like, a lot of the poets that I know anything about, I found because I found one poem of theirs on YouTube, and then I just listened to it on repeat. And so I wanted to do that to an extent and give people the short stories in that way that they can just listen to on repeat. So you don't have to read it, you don't have to follow along. You can if you want to. But it also is helpful because one of the things that I hope to be doing someday is traveling around and reading sections of my book out loud. And I wanted to be able to practice. Practice. I'm practicing. Doing a lot of practicing. But I'm really excited about the fact that I get to share all of that with all of you. Why do I love reading? That's such a hard question. I love... Okay. To answer this question, I have to go back to like the roots of fantasy, and specifically escapism fantasy. I love that books can take you out of your current situation and put you into a new adventure or a new scenario or give you new friends. That can provide entertainment without the need for electricity or screens or anything like that. I just love that books can create magic. Like, I can be sitting on my bed at 2 a.m. reading a book, and it's like that author is sitting there with me, telling me individually a story. Or I don't have to live in the world anymore, and especially right now in 2020, it's nice to not have to live in this world. All that to say, though, I love reading because it allows me to experience new things, but specifically escape the things that I want to run away from. What book or series got you into reading? Oh gosh. Probably Nancy Drew. Like, I feel like that's one of the first series that I remember devouring. Like, there was one day where I sat or sprawled across my mom's office floor while she was working, and I literally just read an entire Nancy Drew book all day long because I had nothing else to do, and I was a child, and it was great. And she was at work, but I didn't have to, I could just sit and read. But those ones really introduced me to the thrill that you can get from mysteries and the intellectual aspects of, can I solve the mystery before Nancy does, or am I just going to follow her through the story and still be perfectly entertained? Probably Nancy Drew. There were a few others, like Tale of Despero. I remember reading that one in 3rd grade. It was one of the first books that I was most proud of reading because it was the biggest book I'd read yet. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I guess I would ask them why they started BookTube, which I suppose I could just go try to find their Booktube Newbie Tag. But why did they start? What were they hoping for in response? Because I feel like the nature of talking to a camera or talking to the internet at large, right? I feel like no one ever actually, and this might be really meta, but no one ever actually enters into this sort of thing without expecting or hoping from something in return. So I want to know why they started. Because I know why I started. But I want to know what drew them to this in the first place. And then why they keep going. What do they do when they can't think of ideas for videos? And do they have a posting schedule? And is that all that necessary? And do they like it? do they still like it after however long they've been doing it? Do they still enjoy it? And if so, why? What challenges will be the hardest to overcome in starting a BookTube channel? I think for me, the hardest part about starting a BookTube channel is that while I love reading, I don't read a whole lot, which feels contradictory. Like I spent 3 years of my life studying the book industry so that I could enter into it, right? And I feel like I never feel like I've read enough books. And then when I have time to sit down and read, I don't have the focus that I want to in order to actually enjoy reading the book. Also, as I've grown older, my taste has become more specific. I wouldn't necessarily say refined. I would just say I've become more picky, which also makes it tricky. Oh, that rhymed. Like I said, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for me is finding books to talk about, finding new books to talk about, and allowing myself to actually discuss the books that I have read. I think I've been so trained by people to not give any spoilers ever because I've been a nerd for so long that the concept of giving a video review where I talk about spoilers, I mean, obviously I'll put like a spoiler warning and stuff like that too, but I feel like that's something that I don't know, that's gonna be an adjustment. When did I start reading? When I was a kid? I don't remember exactly. I just remember always reading. Like, my mom and my dad read me stories before bedtime. I still have... They read me stories before bedtime. I still have the books that we read. This is Wizard of Oz and Heidi and Winnie the Pooh and stuff like that. Anyway, they read me stories all the time before bed, and I loved that. I think that made a huge difference for me. And then as I grew older, when I had spare time, I wasn't watching TV. As a kid, I wasn't even aware of TV shows that I would want to watch. I mean, like, there was PBS and stuff. But I think my access to the library allowed me to entertain myself while my sister finished her homework, and while my mom finished her work, and while my dad finished his work, or while dinner was being made, my sister was doing homework, and stuff like that, where, like, I could go play on my own, but I could also just sit there and read a book. So I did. Definitely in middle school is when I started picking and choosing my own books, like going to the library and picking up, like, this one, I want to read this one. Whereas prior to that, my mom would be like, here's a box of books because you like to read, have fun. And then I would just, like, pick from that box. But middle school, when Percy Jackson came out, and my friends started reading Percy Jackson, it took some convincing, but I finally got my mom to let me read them. And and the number of times that, like, we would go to the library and I'd start reading on the way home, and then I would stop and laugh and then read the entire page out loud to the whole car. That was the norm, right? They never laughed as much as I did. Maybe they just didn't have the right context. Or maybe I just found it a lot funnier for some reason. But that's when I started reading. I started as a kid, and I just kind of never stopped. But now that I'm post-college, I think I'm still partially I'm still facing, like, reading burnout. Because you read so much in college. And then there's adult work life, and I just want to read books, but I don't get paid to read books. Well, sometimes I get paid to read books. That's pretty fun. But then reading becomes work, and I kind of, like, Anyway, where do I read? Hammocks. Mostly I read in a hammock. That's where I've read the most, just fictional for fun. Other times I'm sprawled out on my bed or on the couch curled up under a blanket with some hot cocoa or tea or coffee. Yeah, hammocks and the couch are probably the most often. Yeah, that's where I go. That's where I hang out. And then finally, what kind of books do I like to read? There's there was a time when I would have just said anything, right? And to an extent, that's still true. Like, if you look at my bookshelf, there's dystopian, there's classics, there's Percy Jackson, Harry Potter's up top, you can't see it. There's a ton of suspense novels that I still need to read. There's Christian fiction, there's Edgar Allan Poe. Like, it's a bizarre amalgam of collections of books there. Half of them, most people probably don't know about, or if they do, it's only because they're in the same genres that I'm interested in. So now I've started trying to narrow my collection to suspense novels because I want to write suspense novels. But I still, obviously, I have Percy Jackson and Harry Potter and Heroes of Olympus and all of that stuff. So I guess I enjoy middle grade and young adult fantasy, and I enjoy adult suspense. Does that answer that question? What do I enjoy to read? Yeah. For a while I would have said sci-fi as well, but I think I enjoy watching sci-fi more than I enjoy reading sci-fi. Because sci-fi is so weird, which, like, is great. It's just weird. Which I enjoy watching, but every once in a while when I'm reading something like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I definitely am still going to read, right? Like, I read the first 3 books and I need to finish the rest of the series, but whenever I'm reading it, I am like, I have to stop. And I'm like, wow, this is so weird. It's very enjoyable, but it's so weird. And then I just keep going. Can't be the only one who does that. But I think right now my biggest, favoriteest book that you could possibly give me is a suspense novel that has to do with a kidnapping. As long as, and here's the caveat, as long as it's like, I guess you could call it a clean kidnapping, right? Like, I want a creative motive. Don't give me any of this, like, real life trauma. No. I just want interesting reasons to kidnap specific people. I want the target to not just be an easy target. I want them to be, like, intentionally chosen. Okay, if any of that resonated with you, I guess you should hang out with me. You can subscribe, like, share this with a fellow booktuber. I would love to get to know you guys, so I want to know you. You know what to do, though. You're on YouTube, so like, subscribe. You can find me elsewhere on Instagram and Pinterest and Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook. I'm on Bookstagram. I've been a Bookstagrammer for a lot longer than I've been a booktuber. But I enjoy them both, so. Okay, I guess that's the end of the tag. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!